Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Straight Talk on Social Media on this Friday before the long three-day weekend. Today we're going to talk about personal social media and the assets and boundaries around that. But first, some news from social media events in the last couple of weeks. First of all, this has been talked about and buzzed about quite some time now. MySpace has been on sale after News Corp bought MySpace for $580 million back in 2005. It was just sold this week for $35 million. And they expected a big sort of shakeup is expected at MySpace with lots of employees being removed and that sort of thing. And it's going to take on probably a much smaller, more focused music feel than being sort of a generic social network. So MySpace has finally sold, but for much cheaper than News Corp was originally hoping. They were hoping to get at least $100 million out of the deal, and certainly for far less than News Corp bought it for 6 years ago. So we'll keep an eye on what continues to happen to MySpace as they sort of continue to decline. One comment that I saw on MySpace selling recently said something like, "Get out your life preservers because we're going down." So we'll see what happens. Facebook has recently redesigned has announced a coming redesign, I should say. There's going to be just a few tweaks made to the home page. Part of what that's going to do is it's going to start keeping advertisements instead of, right now the way advertisements work, you can scroll past them and they just appear at the top of the screen. It looks like maybe now they will actually stay with you as you scroll, so that Facebook is always keeping those ads right in front of you. And also, as you can see on the right-hand side of this screenshot that I've got up right now, there's going to be a Happening Now feed, it looks like, which is going to be showing some of the latest sort of things that people are sharing and commenting on as it happens. And so that's sort of going to be an automatic news feed as you look at any particular page of the site. So just something to watch for. We'll let you know when it becomes public, but right now it's something that has sort of been announced as in the works. I just read an article literally about 10 minutes before this webinar. Said that Twitter is now under investigation for antitrust violations. You maybe heard about the fact that with Twitter buying TweetDeck and creating some of its own versions of applications that people have developed for Twitter, the app developers are feeling pretty shut out and have asked the government to investigate Twitter for antitrust, and in fact those investigations have started. So Twitter in some ways sort of shooting itself in the foot for taking on some of the applications that other companies had developed for it, and we'll see where that antitrust investigation goes. And Google has launched, or announced anyway, another social media initiative. It's in beta testing right now with a limited number of users. Google has had many social media events or programs that it has tried out, and none of them have really taken off. They've tried things like Orkut and Buzz, but they're hoping that with this new one they've got a winner now, and they're calling it Google Plus, the Google Plus project. And there are, in fact, a lot of things about it that look promising. It allows you to, instead of having all of your friends gathered into one massive group, you can put people into what's called circles. You can see the screenshot here of that from the Google introduction video. And so you can draw people into circles so that you have a circle of friends that is from high school, a circle of friends for other things, and has other fancy new ideas as well. I was just talking with a coworker here, Katie, and she and I were talking about Google Plus. And on one hand, We're excited that it is in fact, looks like a good social media site coming out from Google as opposed to some of their less good ones in the past. This one does show much more promise. On the other hand, there has sort of become this phenomenon has started that any good ideas that other companies have, Facebook tends to seize those and just develop them themselves. So that, and part of my point in my conversation with Katie was that it looks like there are so many. There are now 750 million people on Facebook, and with so many people having adopted Facebook, will people really want to switch over to Google just because it has maybe a few better ideas, or will Facebook just go ahead and incorporate those ideas into its existing design? I think any social media website that's not doing something fundamentally new is going to have a really hard time competing with Facebook's reach at this point. But it is interesting, and we'll look at more at Google Plus as it becomes more widely available to more users. And our one to watch this week, this one is kind of fun. J.K. Rowling is starting a social network centered around fans of the Harry Potter series. And it's going to be called Pottermore, and you can see here on this screenshot, which is what you see if you go to pottermore.com, that you can submit your email, and it's going to be launching in October. So an interesting idea, one that could take off with at least a fair amount of size, given the popularity of the Harry Potter series, and given the imagination of J.K. Rowling, it might also end up having some features to it that prove to be pretty fun for social media sites. So again, a fun one this week in terms of our one to watch. And now we'll move into the focus, personal social media, assets, and boundaries. This is a topic that I've talked about some before here and there in sort of various comments, but today I want to talk very specifically about things that you should think about as both you as an individual and you as a company as you are stepping into social media. And a reminder as I do this, because I didn't say it at the beginning of the webinar, a reminder that if you do have any questions, you can put those into the questions box on the GoToWebinar control panel that you've got there. So the focus, personal social media, assets, and boundaries. First, I just want to talk a little bit about why I think this is an important issue. I just want to go a little bit into defining this issue. First of all, with any luck, your company is already on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or other social media sites, or you have a plan to be sometime in the near future. So your company is starting to put out a public face, and so thinking about how it's going to, thinking about how your company is going to interact with or have involvement from individuals within your company is an important consideration. And number two, very similar to that, is at the same time, you and other people in your company probably use social media as well. You're out there being individuals on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, and so there are these company profiles, and then there are individual profiles for many, if not all, of the employees within a company. And so number one and number two come together in an interesting way because the fact that your company's on these social media sites and so are you also means that at some point and at some level there will be interaction between your company and your personal social media or some individual's personal social media page. And whether that's because your CEO is promoting your company through her Twitter feed or your CSRs are writing Facebook statuses about the frustrating day they had at work, in some way or other your company will have some social media interaction with the people that work for it. The good news is that if you do this well, it can be really positive for you and for your company. It can be positive for you as an individual and you as a company is what I mean. So I want to talk first about some assets of mixing the personal with the business when it comes to social media, and then talk about where some of your boundaries should be. But before I do that, here's my by the way. Know your social media sites and know what the differences are when it comes to what the social media sites are for. LinkedIn and Twitter really can be thought of as more public sites, and the reason for that is that in general, LinkedIn profiles tend to be viewable, at least some portion of them tend to be viewable by the broad public The general expectation on Twitter, although you can change it in your settings, the general expectation is that tweets are open to the public. They're for everyone to read. Anyone can follow you. There is the ability to set up a restricted Twitter feed so that you have to actually approve people. But that's usually not the norm on Twitter the way it is on Facebook. So just know that LinkedIn and Twitter should be thought of more as public sites, and Facebook should be considered more of a personal site. So first, moving into some assets. One of your biggest assets might be any high-profile employees that you have. If your CEO is well-known in your community or is considered a thought leader or a business guru within your industry, then odds are good that you can harness that high personal profile to benefit your company. Let your CEO's Twitter feed be a collection of her business wisdom, or let her LinkedIn page be a place for her fans to follow her and things like that. Now, of course, your CEO may want some privacy and should be allowed as much as possible or as much as they want. But public sites like Twitter and LinkedIn can be leveraged for your business. And I've certainly seen many Twitter feeds, especially from heads of companies where they are interacting as an individual, but it is, of course, reflecting well back on their company because they are known as the person who is the leader of this company. And I should say also, this is not at all restricted. I'm saying CEO here, but this is not restricted to the head people in your company. It could very well be that you have other employees with oodles of friends, people that Malcolm Gladwell would call connectors, which sort of leads into the next point, which is that another asset is your biggest employee cheerleaders. We probably all know people in our companies who are really just excited and on fire for what we do and for what our companies stand for. These are the people who sort of seem to live and breathe the company and really believe in it. Those people are going to be some of your best social media ambassadors. And so it can be helpful to identify those people and ask them to have something of an official social media voice for your company. And I'll talk in a minute about how you don't want to ask too much of employees in terms of promoting your company through their personal pages. But when you do have somebody who's really on fire for the company, that's a likely person who's going to sort of be an asset for you in thinking about mixing personal social media sites with company pages. And that also sort of gets us into this next point, which is that remember that when your employees share things through their Facebook networks or through their Twitter feeds, suddenly you've just extended your company's networks literally by thousands really quickly. An example here at Pivot was that a few months ago, you may remember that we did our Where Do You Want to Go campaign, which is where we were offering to have anybody post on our Facebook wall or send us an email about where they wanted to go in the world in the United States, and we were going to pick one lucky winner to go there. And this was something that I personally thought was so much fun that I posted it on my personal Facebook wall, and I'm pretty sure that Dave Neustraten and Mark Fordyce, two of our principals here at Pivot, they also posted that on their Facebook walls, and probably other employees did as well. And so suddenly, thousands of people are hearing about this contest that wouldn't have otherwise heard about it. And I probably had 10 or 11 friends from Facebook who saw my post and went over and then liked Pivot on Facebook so that they could go ahead and enter the contest. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that any of those friends is going to end up being a Pivot client, but it also means that in some ways, my own networks, Dave's networks, Mark's networks, those were leveraged to help shed some light on Pivot as well. So that also can be an asset for you. Now, the caveat there is that you really should never ask your employees to sell your products or services using their personal social media sites. Do understand that the reach of their networks can speak positively or negatively to your brand when they talk about your company on social media. but you don't want to ask them. I mean, it's inappropriate to ask somebody to do your selling for you to their personal networks.